Well, joining me on the show is the Chief Operating Officer at Jobberman Nigeria, Oreoluwa Boboye. Good to have you join us, Oreoluwa. I know quite a number of issues happening, especially across the continent, Nigeria inclusive, that is some form of headache for employers. Now, the recent report explores the effects of the pandemic on employment trends and the future of work across the continent. Now, does this include remote working or smart offices, as we have seen during the first lockdown?
Thank you for having me. Good morning. Yes, so the research report actually explores the effect of the pandemic on employment trends and also future of work across the continent. We took into consideration the traditional workforce and also remote workforce. Right, so we looked into trending industries, sectors, trending roles, trending skills, trending salaries and benefits. That's, and also major trends that the current pandemic would have caused in the job market. So this encompassed all of the job market, including the remote workforce. Yeah.
Talking about workforce, perhaps we should also talk about the jobs that are being, sought the more in Sub-Saharan Africa, more so after the lockdown.
Yes, it's a very interesting trend, really. So according to reports, right, we see a very huge surge in sales roles, especially in Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya. And we saw an increased rate at 15%, 4%, and 13% across. So sales roles increasing at 15% in Nigeria, 4% in Ghana, 13% in Kenya. And all of this, we came by all of this considering the different job postings in each market respectively from January to August in 2020. And we also saw that, IT and telecoms, came top even in the industries. So sales, everybody keeps speaking sales, at this time, which is quite interesting.
And again, sometimes it just might be the season, especially as the year winds down. Quite a number of, firms would love to go into pretty much more that route, looking for people that will help drive the market of whatever commodity they bring into the consumer. But again, skills come into play here. Perhaps we should also be talking about the form of skills that these employers or recruiters are looking for in some of these people across the continent.
Yeah. So just to follow up on your last comment, especially on sales, before I go into the skills, I think another contributing factor to this is because of the lockdown, right? A lot of people are in their comfort, in their home, not comfort necessarily, but in their homes, and you have a lot of people fighting for their attention. You've got a lot more people on their TV, a lot more people on their social media, and there is a lot of people trying to grab your attention. So all of these companies, what they are trying to do now is to ensure that they get as much sales into your system, such that, as they are competing for that attention, they are able to get you to commit into paying, right? And hence the significant rise in sales. So having said that, let me just go into skills. So of course there is a very increased demand in IT skills because a lot of people were forced to work remotely, and the need for the basic IT skills, the ability to be able to use work tools, for instance, Google, the Microsoft Suite and all that, very, very important. That became really, really important. And also, what we saw was an increase also, in soft skills. So, adaptability, agility, emotional intelligence. We saw that companies were a lot more focused and more, they are more focused on getting people with such skills. They are more deliberate on getting people with such skills. But then IT skills became really, really predominant, in their briefs and requests.
You know, I think no doubt the lockdown opened a lot of vistas into our world to the extent that a lot of people are talking about the new normal. If you look at big countries here on the continent, employers are agitating for, you know, more of such skills. Now let's look at pretty much more on the skills. Are the skills needed in these jobs changing to meet the times, or have they remained a little bit slow in changing in a world of flux?
So I think it's just people just became a lot more deliberate, requesting for such skills. So it's not like it disappeared; it actually never disappeared, or it's not like some disappeared and some reappeared. It's just that companies were a lot more deliberate asking for some of these skills. Maybe before now, for you to get into an entry-level job, they really don't care about your IT skills because they will train you. But now, a lot of companies do not have that luxury of time to do that. So they would rather bring in people that already have these skills so that they can get on the job immediately, right? So this is what we tend to see. But of course, there is now a lot more demand, on digital skills, very important. So we've seen a significant rise in requests for digital skills, coding skills, data analytics skills, literacy and problem solving skills. We have a lot more digital advertisers who then want to see analytics, right? They want to see the number of people that watch their adverts online. They want to see. So all of this battered more demand for these skills. So they were there already. They were skills that probably maybe by your second year on the job you will learn and catch up. But now they suddenly became prerequisite for even getting the job in the first place.
You know, listening to you, one of the things that comes to mind has to do with the manner of which some of these, demands have changed, especially by job seekers. Time was when a lot of people would want to go into the private sector, and some would choose to go in search of government jobs. Now, tell us what you found as the man who sits atop Jobberman. Is there any form of change in trend in government jobs at the moment, especially in Nigeria?
So, well, in Nigeria, I think what we have, especially in the job space, is more government intervention, for instance, trying to drive employability interventions, right? They do not necessarily connect into government jobs, but I guess those interventions are to prepare you to be able to work in either the government space or the private space. But in terms of demand, I think on our platform, it has always been more on the private sector, and that's still topped the charts, right? In terms of demand from an employment point of view. So I wouldn't say that there was a increase, or I wouldn't say that the government demand increased more than the private sector demand. The private sector demand is still a lot more. It's just that on both ends, there seems to be a little more increase because of some government initiatives targeted at trying to still empower people to be in jobs.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be looking at something that may not help some people, perhaps like myself, who is colorblind, talking about color codes for jobs. White colored color or white, blue? That's when we return. You're watching Business Edge here on News Central, and still have with me Chief Operating Officer at Jobberman Nigeria, Oreoluwa Boboye. Let's quickly see what we can find when people talk about colors code when it comes to job, and how you can interpret this. For some, we already understand what white collar job means. What about other colors, Oreoluwa?
Oh yeah, so it's quite an interesting concept, and I think it's actually dated back into the early 20th century. Actually, so the white collar job, was coined in the 1930s by an American writer. Interesting, right? So it's really described people who worked, in the clerical, administrative and managerial functions in the 1930s. And I think over time it became really popular, and and it just did stick. So up until now, we refer to white collar jobs as the office jobs, right? Where you wear the suit and tie, like your job. Yeah, so that's pretty much the white collar job. Yeah.
So are there other colors?
Oh yes. So I think the very popular one, there are two really popular ones around here, which is the white collar and the blue collar jobs. So the blue collar jobs then refer to the working class members that perform manual labor, right? So they're the ones that they're generally termed unskilled labor, but I think the net is now really bigger. So they are not necessarily unskilled, but they are not the ones in the managerial level. So, for instance, you wouldn't say that a plumber is unskilled. A plumber is actually very skilled, but is still considered as a blue collar worker, right? Because, of course, when you're working as a plumber, you don't dress up with suit and tie. So that's pretty much just classifying the two major ones. That's the white collar jobs, which is the managerial, the administrative, the office people, and then the blue collar workers are the ones that get their hands dirty. They do the manual stuff. They are the ones in the mud, pretty much. Yeah. So those are the really, really popular ones around there. There are a lot more classifications, but they are not necessarily popular around here. Like, for instance, the red collar. So the red collar is classified as the government workers of all types. That is not popular around here. You never hear someone say, "Oh, I'm a red collar worker," because it's not a common thing. There's the purple collar, which is a sub-classification of the white collar. These are skilled workers. We have the new collar, which are the developers, the technical guys, the software developers. They call themselves the new collar. So there are a lot of color classifications that are not necessarily popular around here, but the umbrella ones and the popular ones are the white collar or the blue collar.
Now let's throw in this. Sometimes people seeking jobs get to a firm or a company, and you understand their language when they say there are no gaps. And as an expert, sometimes you look keenly and you see there are gaps, but there are no gaps, because there are people who have populated the gaps, but they're not performing optimally to show that there are truly spaces for people to come in. Now, it goes back to skills we try to highlight at that point in time. How does this work, for employers, especially as it relates to, getting people in to do the job?
Yeah. So interesting fact. I guess that's one of the reasons why a company like Jobberman exists. So our mandate really is to ensure that the right people are placed in the right jobs. Our mandate is to ensure that we democratize accessibility to job, such that we remove the prevailing notion that you need to know someone to get into certain jobs, right? But to ensure that job opportunity is made available to everybody, and everyone is given the the correct level playing ground. So our job is now to ensure that we look into a client's brief, for instance. So an employer's brief. So we ask the employer, what is this role? What is your expectation? And then we work with the employer to understand, look, for this to happen, the person that needs to fill this role must have, or that the person that would work in this particular job function would need to have these certain skills. Now, having identified these skills, we also try to ensure that the job seekers display these skills, right? So one way to do that, for instance, is to put out proficiency tests to actually check, for these gaps. And for a while now, we've seen that play out significantly. Where people claim that they know some certain things and they can do some certain things, and then we test them on those things, and then we realize that, oh no, you're far away from it. I guess what is important is that, when there is a very honest system to be able to track these gaps, employers are more open to engage. Do you understand? And that is the reason why, for instance, of course, that's the reason why Jobberman is in business, to be able to ensure that we notice that gap and we bridge that gap both on the employer side and the job seeker side.
That's a fantastic analysis, because I call that gaps where there are no gaps. Well, thank you very much for being such nice company, Oreoluwa Boboye, Chief Operating Officer at Jobberman Nigeria.
Thank you so much.